All right, as promised in the last video, let's look at my training. Now, this training here is with 21 weeks to go to Cairns. For those that are new to the channel and that don't know me, my name is Des Trindle. I'm a 57-year-old triathlete based in Brisbane. I have a family here, and I also juggle my training with full-time work. So like most of us, it's just one of those things that we have to do. I'm also coming back to triathlon. This will be my third season back after nearly 10 years out. So in the last video, I explained how that went down with starting at 104 kilo and working my way down to now where I'm finally down under that 80 kilo, pushing the sort of 78 kilo mark, which I hadn't been in quite a long time. So one of the things that I wanted to do was just be transparent with my training heading into Cairns, sharing that training, and if that helps anyone, then that's fine. Full disclaimer, I'm not a coach. I don't want to be a coach at this stage in my life. I've got too many other things going on, and I just try to concentrate on what I'm doing. So if we look at my training in a week, you'll see this. I've brought up the Garmin screen there, which gives you the Monday through to Sunday. What it doesn't show you is how my work fitted in around that. So, and if we look at it, that included 2 pool swims. I did a pool swim on a Wednesday and a Saturday. I did a bike ride on the Monday, the Tuesday, the Thursday, and the Sunday. So I had 4 bike rides in that one week. As far as runs go, I had an easy run on the Tuesday, a bit of an interval run on the Wednesday, sort of mid to upper zone 2 tempo run on the Thursday, a run off the bike, an endurance run on the Saturday, and then an easy run in the afternoon on the Sunday. So I actually had 5 runs that week. Why the amount of runs over the rest? Well, I swim fairly strongly. Swimming is very much technique, and I do a lot of technique work as well on that. But my bike's always been very firm. I come from a biking background from sort of 12 years age onwards, but my run's always been my weakness, and that's where I tend to let myself down in the races. Is I don't feel that I run well enough, but historically in the past, I also haven't put enough work into the runs. So if we look at Monday, Monday was, in this particular week, a very easy 60-minute recovery ride. I concentrated on that ride, just staying in that sort of zone 1, zone 2 area. For those that aren't familiar with the zones, just pop into Google zones on the video on YouTube, and I'm sure you can find heaps of resources on how the training zones work. I work on a training zone 1 through to a training zone 5. So on the Monday work-wise, I spent the day in an office shift, so that wasn't too bad. It was just I work in the city. I live on the peninsula, so it was a 30-minute, and I rode motorbike 30-minute motorbike ride into the office. I spent a few hours in the office that day just catching up on some admin and things like that, and then a nice easy motorbike ride home. So I did the ride prior to the office, so I got the ride in before the heat of the day. As you're aware, or probably not aware, the last sort of few weeks in Brisbane have been a little bit warm, and humidity's been through the roof, which has just been a nightmare for me. So on Tuesday, I actually had a work shift that ran from me leaving home at 11:30 in the morning till working through and arriving back home at 7:30 in the afternoon. So morning time, I did an hour and 30 minutes or a 90-minute zone 2 ride. We're very fortunate here that I'm based sort of up in the Redcliffe Peninsula, that you can jump on the bike path right over the bridge there at Clontarf, and literally you're not on the road nearly the whole ride. You do have a few little underpasses and things like that to go through, but it's a very safe way to train. Off the bike, I did a 3K run, and it's just an easy run. I'm just running on feel. I'm not pushing myself. I'm just getting used to that transitional period where we all felt it in the past. You get off the bike and you're a bit funny on the legs for the first kale. So moving on to Wednesday. Now, Wednesday I had a weird work shift. I worked from 3:30 or left home at 3:30 in the Arvo, and I got home a little after 11 p.m. So I work in the horse industry, so we work around when the races are on. And sometimes the races are day and sometimes the races are night. And sometimes I'm in the office and sometimes I'm out doing different things in the field. So my shifts are never a 9 to 5 shift, and that reflects across my training. And it means I also have to work my training around my shifts. And sometimes I won't know what my shifts are 2 weeks out. So I have to be mindful of that when I'm planning. So the Wednesday training, in the morning, I went out and I did a run. And what I do there, I sort of run for a bit over a kilometre, just nice and easy. It's a bit downhill where I live, down to the Margate beach area. What I do once I get down there, it takes about 8 minutes. I then have an easy walk for a minute and a half, 2 minutes, and then I start a series of 4 minutes on, and I run those 4 minutes at about 90%. Based on feel. I tend not to look at my heart rate then. I'm just trying to concentrate on my breathing and my form, and running at what I feel I could run at, possibly a half Ironman pace. At the end of that 4 minutes, I have a 2 minute where I'm just walking. I don't stop completely. I don't jog. I just walk for 2 minutes, and then I do that 4 minutes again. Now I repeat that anything from 4 to 6 times. This particular Wednesday, I did a 4 because I'm coming back off a little bit of an illness that I had over that period beforehand. And then at the end of that, I generally do another sort of 10-minute or 7 to 10-minute warm down, and then a kilometre walking back from that Margate Beach up to the house. So that gives me a good session. So obviously then the evening was spent working. It was a bit of a late night, so I've always got to be mindful of that when I'm doing my session the next day. However, Thursday I actually had the day off work. So what I planned to do and what I did that day was I got out for an earlier ride before the heat come up. I did a 2-hour ride in the morning, which came to about 60k. Once again, not pushing it, just a zone 2 ride. At the moment, I'm just trying to bank those aerobic miles and get my body used to the fat burning and just being a little bit more efficient heading into the Ironman training. Later getting closer to the Ironman, I'll start putting some more race specific or race speed specific sessions in, but at the moment I'm just building base. In the afternoon, I actually, after the ride, I think I went and had another little nap for an hour and a half. Did some work. I'm doing up an old horse truck into a bit of a camper motorhome. So I did some work on that during the day, really sort of stressless, easy day. And then in the afternoon, a 60-minute run. So in those sort of 60-minute runs, they're an upper zone 2. So I'm letting my heart rate build in the first kilometre or so. And then what I'm doing from a kilometre onwards, I'm sort of running a little bit on feel, but I am looking down at my watch every now and again, and I'm making sure that I'm staying around that 125 to 130 beats per minute heart rate. You do get a little bit of cardiac drift coming into the last sort of 20 minutes where I will drift up into the 135 marks, but I'm making sure that I'm running that at a pace where if I had someone running with me, I could still be having a conversation. So now moving into Friday. Friday was a early start for me. I had to leave home at 6:15 in the morning, and I didn't get home till about 2 in the afternoon. We were out conducting some random stable inspections on some licensees. So it does involve a lot of driving from one area to another. And by the time I get home, I'm absolutely buggered. So When I got home, I once again think I had another hour nap. So one of the things you tend to do, I tend to do anyway, is I do my training, but I find I like to recover, and if I can, I like to have those naps during the day, at least 45 minutes to an hour. Put it down to age, put it down to whatever, but I find it works for me. So now, as far as the Saturday and Sunday, I had a very unusual weekend in that I wasn't working. Normally, I'm either working on a Saturday night or a Sunday. So to have 2 days off was a bit, and 2 days off in a row for me. And in this week in particular, where I had 3 days in total off, is a bit of a novelty. But they make up for it in the following week. Trust me on that one. So Saturday morning, I started off with a endurance run. My plan was just to run a very mid-level zone 2, just getting in the miles, getting in the fatigue into the legs for an hour 45. I went a bit over an hour 48. I don't look at pace in those runs. I just want to make sure I'm keeping that sort of mid-level zone 2, which is that 120 to 125 heart rate for me. And knowing that, if I wanted to, I could run for as long as I kept fueling for that. Very minimal cardiac drift towards the end of it, which is showing that I was hitting those sort of marks nicely. And I did feel a little bit of fatigue at the end, and that's good. That's what I wanted. But I felt like I could go another half an hour or so if I needed to. Going into Saturday, it was my second swim of the week. Actually, go back to Wednesday, because I don't think I covered Wednesday's swim. And that was a lunchtime swim. And I've got intervals there. So what I do there is, that particular day I did a 400 metre warm-up, and then I do 10 200 metres with a 45-second break between each. Now, they're not a flat-out 200. They're just a firm 200, probably at about the pace I feel like I'd swim an Ironman at. The first 5 are just freestyle, and then the final 5 of the 10, I did paddles and pool boy. And just holding form, making sure I'm keeping that stroke count and everything nice and even. So back to Saturday's swim. The second swim of the week, I always try to do an endurance swim. This stage, I'm sort of capping it around that 2,500 to 3,000 metres. So 2,500 metres, and it's just up and down. I put on a set of those shock swims, I think they're called, listen to music and just swim basically up and down the lane for the 2.5K. One of the rare occasions I actually got the lap count right and didn't overswim, which was good, because normally I end up with 27, sometimes even 3,000 metres when I want to do a 2,500 metre swim. I get lost in the music. So Sunday morning, once again, as I said, another rest day as far as work goes. So I was able to get some decent training in. We were getting a bit hot here with last Sunday, Monday, we're going to be a bit of a heat wave in Brisbane. So got out early, did a 4-hour endurance ride, or it just came in just a bit under, but I'm not going to just keep going around the block for the sake of it. So very much a zone 2 ride. From my instance, I rode down to Manly. I actually stopped when I got down at Manly, grabbed myself a Coke, which I rarely do, and then rode back up. Now, one of the things that I do during these endurance rides is I practice my nutrition. So that's something that we've got to get right, especially come race day at Ironman. So in this instance, I was looking at running around 70 grams of carbs per hour. I'll make my own carb mix up, which I'll do another little video on later. I use maltodextrin, fructose, and just basic salt, sodium. So it's a very economical way of doing it. And I also do just 30 grams of sugar in, say, a 500 ml bottle with a little bit of sodium as well, and some no sugar cordial just to add a bit of flavour. So I'll do a video on that later, but I find it a very economical way rather than spending 20 or 30 bucks on a gels for an endurance ride. It probably cost me all of $2 or $3. So my plan was that morning was to do an endurance ride off the bike. However, when I got home, it was already 31 degrees and the humidity was through the roof. I was absolutely saturated, even with the breezer riding. So I put a call on that, and I thought, no, I'm going to put myself in a hole if I do even a 20-minute run. So always being mindful of future sessions and not wanting to dig too deep a hole, especially 21 weeks out. So I didn't neglect it. I decided to opt out of the run. Rather than that, I just had a few hours sleep because it was such an early start. Just hydrated, made sure I ate properly during the day, and then I waited till 5:30, quarter to 6 in the evening when we had a bit of a sea breeze there, and it was nice, and just did a nice zone 1, zone 2 30-minute run. So all up, it gave me a pretty solid training week, even having the Friday as a rest day. I think I averaged 14 hours, 14 and a half hours. So I tend to look at time more than distance when I'm training these days. I, I, I just feel, if I'm aiming for a particular time in a race, then I know that my body can handle that time rather than handling the distances. So I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but it works in my head, so we keep it that way. So anyway, if you've made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I will do the update on my training video once a week. I'll throw in an additional video every now and again during the week of little things, like I really want to do a video on how I make up my gels and things like that, and also the specific equipment that I'm using in my training and why I'm using that. So I'll do those little videos up over the next week or so, and we can add those up as well. So anyway, guys, stay safe out there. Enjoy your training, and any questions, please feel free to throw them down in the comments. Have a great day.